This happened many years ago. I used to eat around that time every day and walk home from elementary school. My mother thought it would be safe for me to walk alone because my house was a few miles down the road. A few months into the school year, this began to happen, and I beat up Toyota until he would slow down enough for two white guys who appeared to be in their mid-60s to follow me. Have been ongoing since I told her. She became even more worried because she was a single parent and couldn't pick me up from school because she worked all day. Her solution was to send my older brother to meet me halfway, thinking that would stop them. However, it didn't, and after 4 months, they continued to follow me and insult me. After a month passed without them driving by, we assumed everything was safe again. However, we were mistaken when I suddenly saw the old beat-up Toyota driving down the road. Towards me, only the driver was in the car. This time, he slowed down, flung open the passenger door, and proceeded to yell for me to get into the car. I was so scared I couldn't even speak. I just shook my head no and tried to walk faster. He continued to follow me, demanding that I get into his car. I'll never forget the look on his face as he yelled at me. It was so full of rage, we finally got to the gas station and I made a break for it. I ran inside the gas station and off to the gas station attendant. I told him what was happening, and he allowed me to hide behind the counter. When the driver arrived at the petrol station, he got out of the car and demanded to know where I was. He claimed that I jumped out of his car, and the attendant looked down at me. I shook my head wildly, mouthing that I didn't know this man. The attendant said he didn't know what he was talking about, and he had to leave the store right away. The driver then started screaming loudly and searching the store for me. The man turned to the petrol station attendant and said something. "I'll never forget I'll get that," after the attendant threatened to call the police if he did not leave. I sat there on the floor crying for what felt like hours, and they drove a storm down to the petrol station and laughed in one way or another. The petrol station attendant called the police and asked them to come over. And when they did, the police officer knelt down beside me and asked me my side of the story. And I told the officer everything. He and a few others had been pursuing me for months, insulting me along the way. They even stopped trying to get me into his car. After that, they called my mother and met with her at our house. They took her statement and laughed. My mother then changed her work hours to come get me every day. For years, I lived in constant fear that the man with the greasy hair and pebble-scarred face would eventually get me. So to the man who followed me for months, insulting me and eventually trying to get me into his car, I'm not that scared little girl anymore. We better never meet.